Hello. Today I will be talking about ambient music and how it affects the mind. And my project was based off of my own personal experiences. So I was happy with that. But today, the opening question, most important one. How does it affect our minds to relax? By definition, ambient music is a gentle, largely economic instrumental music with no persistent beat used to create or enhance a mood or atmosphere. However, not all ambient music is the same. There are many different subgenres of the sound with many different ambient styles, such as chillwave, a music genre that was emerged in the late 2000s and was known for its dreamy, nostalgic sound, with many artists been recognized for their contributions to ambient, such as artists like Aphex Twin, Tim Hecker, Telepath, Brian Eno, The Caretaker, and Akira Yamaoka, to name a few. Well, where does it all begin? I scrolled on the website ratemusic.com to look more into the ambient genre, and I figured out most users believe that Low by David Bowie is considered to be one of the greatest ambient works of all time, with the highest rating on the website, with the second and third places going to Another Green World by Brian Eno, and then Selected Ambient Works Volume 2 by Aphex Twin. Many people can just experience ambient music as many tracks are on many mainstream platforms. However, not everybody gets the same feeling from ambient music. While most tracks can be considered calm and relaxing, collecting, very nice, very amazing feelings, others may think it's alarming or disgruntling, and I can see that. Ambient music can help bring a sense of calming over a listener and keeping them in a level-headed state and helping people reach the innermost thoughts in their head. Ambient has been around for about roughly 70 years as a genre itself, not actually as ambient music in a background of a grocery store, but like just solely like as the genre itself. Confirmed. This could be wrong. So be it. But with the first confirmed release of a solely ambient album called Prélude au Sommeil by Jean-Jacques Perret in 1958 acting as the catalyst for ambient releases after. But now that we've established the definition of ambient music in my eyes, and now we know its most popular creators of it. But it does also ask another question. How does it affect the mind and sleep? A research study was done by writers Xupeng Hu, Yameng Yang, Wenhao Chen, Shanshan Lu, Tong Niu, Yunzhu Xia, and Jin Yi Li, which are all there to explore the effects of sleep ambient music intervention, also known as SAMI. So SAMI is based on sleep quantity and mental health status of college students. The participants were subjected to about 1 week of no intervention test, which is no ambient music at all, just sleeping as they normally did. For example, right there, that's where I sleep with no intervention. But they were subjected to around 1 week of no intervention test, followed by about 4 weeks of music intervention, thankfully collected by the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index, also known as PSQI, researched by, I'll put it on the screen like right here, because I cannot pronounce these names, I'm so sorry. And also the Sleep Quality and Cancer-Related Fatigue Patients in the Cancer Journal of Caring Sciences. Thank you to them as well. With mental status, the data collected by the State Trait Anxiety Inventory, or STI, and the Beck Depression Inventory-2, BDI-2. Using mixed effects models and measures, results were then compared with the no intervention to the music intervention period. During the sleep period of no intervention, it was discovered that men had worse sleep efficiency, also known as SE, shorter total sleep time, TST, and more awakening time, AT. Moreover, it was seen that 3 days were needed for a minimum effective length for SAMI to shorten the subject of soul for college students. Yes, I'll be using a lot of terms, a lot of these things, so if you need a quick refresher, soul is sleep onset latency. Now that we have those terms established, and I hope you remember them, we will talk more about the results. The findings suggested that SAMI can improve sleep quality, shorten the objective of SOL, and reduce anxiety and depression in college students. Interventions for more than 3 days had a significant effect in the shortening of SOL, and the long-term effects seemed to emerge after only 3 weeks. Using a statistical model deriving from the linear mix effect model, which is a model from a general linear model, which includes the fixed effects on a random effects. They used repeated measures to compare the effects of interventions at different time points, and the time of day was the explanatory variable, with subjective SOL and objective SOL uses the response variables to explore the minimum effective time of SAMI to improve the sleep quality. The mixed effects and models with repeated measures were tested at alpha equals 0.05. I'll put it up here as well. The results under SAMI were all very different from one another, showing that SAMI significantly reduced SOL and AT improved ST in college students. PSQI scores were very differently compared to the first week to the fourth week under intervention compared to the no intervention week, meaning that SAMI significantly reduced the PSQI scores among college students. Well, now the question is, what are the effects of SAMI on the mental status? If we were to compare the no intervention weeks to the intervention weeks, we can see a significant decrease in the numbers. I have a solution for this. I'm going to put the mic down real quick, so I hope you don't mind that all at one bit. So, I have a green screen. Throw it up here, and you're going to take it at face value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover myself. Whoa, look, a green screen. I'm going to throw my numbers up here, and then you're going to understand them. With that knowledge, you might be asking, what do these numbers even mean? The numbers you might have seen earlier may have a lot of questions for you, such as the beta symbol that you saw earlier, but also at the same time, the main focus here is on how SAMI affected mental status, and this is assessed by comparing weeks with no intervention to intervention weeks, which is the beta symbol, which was the beginning symbol that we saw earlier, compared to the after effect symbol, which is something else. SAMI significantly improved mental status. There was a statistically significant difference between the no intervention weeks and the intervention weeks. And in statistical terms, this is supported by the values of beta values given by the p-values given. And to understand the beta and p-values more, the beta value represents the magnitude and direction of the effect of SAMI on the mental status, and the p-values tell whether or not the result is statistically significant. A negative b-value, and for example, the one earlier, beta equals negative 1.023, indicates that SAMI has a reducing effect on the outcome measure. In this case, it suggests that SAMI reduced mental distress or depression depending on the outcome being measured. The p-value less than 0.05, for example, p equals 0.021, means that the result is statistically significant and is therefore strong evidence that SAMI has an effect on mental status. For example, in week 3 and week 4, SAMI intervention led to the reductions in mental measures, e.g. SAM, which could refer to the anxiety or measure of mental status, and beta equals negative 1.933, comma, p is less than 0.001, and beta equals negative 273.0, and p less than 0.001 in weeks 3 and 4, respectively, means that SAMI significantly improved these measures. The study also measured depression, and the results showed that SAMI had a significant impact on reducing depression scores over the course of this study, statistically speaking. For the values, beta and depression are all negative, indicating that SAMI reduced depression. These questions above, I don't feel like saying them. It's a lot of numbers. Not for me. I'm not a math guy. But I'll put them all on screen here. These are significant and suggest that SAMI helped to reduce depression symptoms over time. Here are some of the key takeaways from this. SAMI had a positive effect on mental status and depression among college students. The intervention week showed a significant reduction in mental distress and depression, especially in the 3rd and 4th weeks. And the beta values suggest a reduction in mental distress and depression since the beta values are negative. The p-values indicate that these effects are statistically significant, meaning there is a low probability that these results are due to random chance. For those of you who had no idea what I just explained to you, which is fine, I didn't understand it either. I can't read numbers. I'll compare it using Pop-Tarts. Why not Pop-Tarts? Pop-Tarts, I love Pop-Tarts. Do you like Pop-Tarts? Anyways, let's rename this experiment to the Pop-Tart intervention. So we'll be tracking people's mood and depression scores over 4 weeks. Some weeks, not all weeks, they'll be eating Pop-Tarts every day. Intervention weeks. And other weeks, they don't eat them. No intervention weeks. But using the same statistical model that we just used and the other ones, using the same numbers and everything, we'll think of beta as the Pop-Tart power effect. Trademark. What flavor? Brown sugar cinnamon. No discussion, no questions asked. That's the best one. B value is negative, then that means that eating Pop-Tarts is helping reduce the negative feelings like depression or a bad mood. For example, when beta equals, or Pop-Tart power, trademark, is negative 1.023, it means that in that given week when students ate their Pop-Tarts, their mood improved by 0.123 units. Let's call it mood points, just to kind of keep it, keep it simplistic, It means that we are very confident that eating Pop-Tarts had an effect, not just a random fluke. This is not by chance. They love their Pop-Tarts. I love my Pop-Tarts. And the p-values they'll tell us if we're sure that Pop-Tarts really did change people's moods. We're very confident this Pop-Tart has an effect. That's also not a random fluke either. For example, a p-value of p equals 0.021 tells us that we are 99.79% sure that eating Pop-Tarts led to a significant improvement in the mood during that week. So, does that make sense? If not, throw me away. Just across the cliff, I'll go away. Of course, I'll be quoting the researchers that helped me with this study right here. So, thank you to everybody that helped me learn. But this is the part where I was most excited about. When you listen to music, do you ever imagine anything? For example, like when you hear a song on the radio or on your phone, and you just close your eyes and you just listen to it. Do you imagine a landscape of anything? Like, do you think of anything? Like a scenario or a feeling you get when you listen to a song? Like, do you feel that? If so, this one's for you. Ambient landscapes, by definition, are a form of meditation on our natural environment. What makes ambient music combined with landscapes and nature so well is that ambient music is already characterized by its minimalism and lack of structure, allowing it to blend seamlessly with visual elements. What is most interesting about ambient music is how well it blends with human geography, by which the atmospheric conditions of the human experience become the image of experimentation and design. Through the use of sound, music presents a social and cultural science with a more provocative set of questions than simply acting as a means to control the rhythms of daily life. As many studies of personal media technologies in everyday life, with this knowledge presented, it made me question if people around me had the same perception of ambient music as I did. I asked 26 people in a survey about what they felt about listening to 8 ambient tracks, with not all songs being the same, with not all tracks being the same type of ambient. That way I can guarantee that most aspects of ambient music were covered. Here's what I found. For the first song, I chose A Dream by Flat Sound. The song reminds me of a grassland out in the west somewhere where the wind blows against the tall grass, with no other person in sight. It makes me feel a sense of comfort in the silence of the world while also keeping me at peace. I felt calm but neutral. I imagined an isolated and humble, murky, algae-ridden pond, watched over by a single lonely frog. With a drizzle in the beginning twilight of the evening, it didn't evoke any specific emotion. The synth layered over the variety of wildlife recordings pushes the nostalgic feelings the synths invoke into a sort of surreal setting, halfway between artificial and real. I think ambient is good for reflecting on events in one's personal life, since it's a genre made up of mood-setting pieces with less focus on intricacy and being conspicuous. But there are certain tones that hook into memories that evoke similar emotions. It doesn't have to be a real memory. Maybe just a memory of something you previously imagined yourself doing, like the waterfall scene from Wong Kar-wai's Happy Together. I think this fits the scene pretty nicely. I think the song felt coldly warm. The droning synth, as well as the natural ambiance, made me feel like I was somewhere familiar and comfortable. but I couldn't shake a feeling of a sound being miragey. It almost feels hostile with how the melodic synths are too faded into the back. Might sound a bit tacky, but that's how I felt the first night after I got broken up with. During this night, I just felt quite empty in the sense that I cried I just felt empty in the sense that I cried all my feelings and just couldn't seem to form a thought. I remember I would stare at the ceiling up in my bed and fully zone out for hours on end without sleeping. Like the song name, it felt like I was in a dream. Like the whole situation wasn't real and I'd wake up and we would still be together. A good way to describe this feeling would probably be emptiness, and in a way, anxiety. Probably also that feeling in your chest where everything feels stuffy and uncomfortable. For the second song, I chose I Guess It Could Be Looked At as an Escape or a Chance to Start Over by Flat Sound. This song brings a great sense of a slow build to something before abruptly being stopped. It can be compared to life or even relationships, as once something goes very well, something stops before you even know it. You want things to be good, but there's always that note or roadblock. With how the music stops and starts, it almost reminds me of a loneliness of being at school. Having sound around me for most of the day and just being. But for some moments, all the sound would stop and I'd be left in a crowded place with no one who knew me but myself. I feel a cold pit of loneliness. A lonely man dressed in black, hunched over, playing the piano in a secluded, dark, and foggy room with a singular window that the light beams in. He reminisces over the loss of loved ones, a slight smile creeping up his lips. I felt a sense of relief and nostalgia. Fantastically Alone. The song's feeling is rather bittersweet. It's like a feeling you get after knowing or remembering something from the past, but that rather finished unceremoniously, like a bad breakup or being ghosted. But you muster up the courage to still go on regardless. While I try not to sound too personal, it felt like that for me. This track feels very content in itself. I feel a sense of finality with how abruptly the notes end at each of the key phrase. I can't imagine an exact scenario, but I think it's sort of an introspective feeling. I think the name of the track does a good job of almost sort of like in some chair in the dark room alone after some form of life-changing event. It's uncomfortable, but almost alienating. The third song was the perfect change of pace I felt, going from a very low depressive feel to one that is very colorful. This is also a statement to show how varied ambient is, and the song chosen was Cruising by Explosi. This song reminds me of the Frutiger era design of the early internet during the late to early 2000s. It's a track that keeps you in a light mood, but also keeps the good vibe rolling. The song felt more active and calm, while still being peaceful and serene. I imagine a city, but once again this time more lively, and fast-moving scene than the previous. The game Persona. Persona! I rather like this song, but I don't feel like much of a relation to it. Many people felt a video game or visual novel setting, where 5 people said something similar to this. It feels like oddly like elevator music, really weird elevator music. This is different from the others. A jarring change from the last one. It almost feels more fun and boppy. It sort of takes me back to early childhood. For some reason, when I think of this, I think of some form of main menu on a weird Xbox 360 game. It's a weird description, but the sound is Frutiger era. I can see myself playing a game and selecting the car before a race. Kind of a sterile soundscape. Or sterile sonudscape. It's a new one. Sonud? I think it's soundscape. The next song took a drastic turn towards a more grim setting, with Blank Fairy by Akira Yamaoka. Blank Fairy is the longing feeling of dread, despair, and discomfort that knowing the feeling of something is there, but you don't want to see it for yourself. Hands clawing behind a mirror, scraping against the floor, carefully walking around while turning my head back very often, feeling cautious. I get the feeling of hollowness and anxiety. I commend the survey creator for putting an Akira Yamaoka track from Silent Hill 2, and just like in the game, it perfectly conveys the emotional and psychological turmoil the atmosphere of this sound sounds like. Like perhaps something you did that weighs so heavily down on you. This scene plays while you're carrying bricks on your back for 4 hours in a never-ending hallway. Yet another jarring change. I would like to compare this to the lyrics of one of my favorite Load songs, Gourd. Because the lyrics convey a feeling of hopelessness and impossibly overwhelming presence crushing of one's self and mind. Merciless in full form, a sacrilege conceived in a robed black. Impossible. Merciless in full form, a sacrilege conceived in robed black. Impossible to rip apart from it. Listen close, hear it calling for you. I know what it's going for. I keep probably restating the obvious with each of these tracks, but the industrial sounds create a more hostile environment. It feels like being depressed. The static being thoughts you can't bear to hear anymore. The next song is Eternal Hope by Desert Sand Feels Warm at Night. I imagine a scenario where I'm exploring an empty trampoline park. A colorful area that's usually filled with life, yet there's nobody there. I feel a sense of childlike wonder, followed by the desire to explore further. This one is a little difficult. It feels like nights when I would be driving around alone and listening to music while pondering my thoughts. I got another feeling from this. Have you ever lied down in a restaurant booth and kind of looked at the overhead lights? Because it's such a specific thing, it kind of has the same vibe, you know? It feels like laying on the floor of a room with colorful lights while you're high. I didn't get much of a feeling or anything from this one as the others so far. This track had a feeling of nostalgia that I would never be in. This track delved rather deeply into the vaporwave aesthetic of the pseudo-1980s synthesizer soundscapes and delivers a feeling of warmth, but also a rather peculiar feeling of oddness to it, just like how the scenario of the album conveys the otherworldly desert of the unknown. With this song, I imagine a natural but artificial landscape like the one in the album art, as this song had a serene, calm, and exotic sound. Kind of feels like standing in the rain with a mysterious figure standing next to you. The next song was Peace and Serenity by Akira Yamaoka. This song sounded more abstract and detached from reality as the previous songs, so I imagine an otherworldly scenario taking place in somewhere, like heaven or a great empty void. Nobody wants to die. People who say that are just unhappy they can't live. I have a strong feeling of bliss listening to this. It's almost as if the other anxiety depression inducing tracks of the other Silent Hill 2 soundtrack got shut up by this peaceful soundscape, where you can imagine just lying on your bed washing all your worries away. I confided so much with this particular song that I use it to suit my actual sleeping time. The first thing that comes to mind is winter. I kind of create imagery in my mind of a thick, heavy, slow, and calm snowfall, which is something I default to imagining or looking forward to on days that run particularly bad. The wording is because I'm dancing on my phraseology. I have a memory. The song Jikan no Hamon?
時間の波紋
The song Jikan no Hamon by Telepath. I felt incredibly lost and oppressed. I imagined a sinking panic attack while I lost myself in a dense, mystic rainforest with torrential rainfall. I imagined deep anxiety. Because of the rain, this first sounds like something terrible has happened to me, but then it shifts to something magical yet oddly terrifying. These almost random sounds make it seem kind of scary, but also it sounds very mystical in some way. I can see some rainy streets. The sounds of the birds in the water remind me of going out for walks, but at the same time, I get a feeling of looming dread that just won't go away while listening to it. This reminds me of the time when I was in Japan. There was a little conflict that resulted in me storming out, and I ended up in a shrine that I used to visit often. It had a nice little stream, and it was a small shrine with a simple statue that was run down, so no one would be there. When the wind blew, you could hear the little bells and chimes ringing, which the bird chirping reminded me of. It feels serene and kind of calming, yet anxious. Like you know you didn't do anything, but there's a feeling in the bottom of your stomach that makes you feel like you did do something wrong. Judging by the waterfalls and the other glassy soundscapes that indicate a secluded forest, I felt this song tries to lead me. A feeling of wonder and curiosity, and also a small hint of uncertainty of what lies beyond the space I am put on by this very fascinating song. I feel as if this song depends on the listener, as if for me, it invokes a feeling of unsteadiness because the notes feel off pitch while the background plays what sounds like machine clunking in rain. The last song. Wait. Did I mention the glassy part? Oh, I didn't. That sucks. The last song is probably the most emotional and the most eye-opening to ambient music. Number 19 by Aphex Twin. I cried. Number 19 to me feels like the true ending of something, whether it be of a life, a story, or of music itself. The song feels like you've made it to the end of the world, and the only thing you hear is the ticking sound that you hear in the background, acting as a countdown. Once the ticking fades away, you are left with only your thoughts and with the rest of the world. The sounds of a drone above you later in the song acting as the body shutting down, and the mind shutting down, as you gradually subside into the earth. This is the saddest song I know. To me, this doesn't even sound like something terrible is happening. It sounds like you're accepting that something has happened. It especially sounds like something that left your life in some way, not even in the sense of dying or anything. This song leaves me hollow every time I listen to it, but it's an absolute masterpiece in my opinion. It's a track that kind of heals your soul even though it hurts. The Monkey in the Hot Springs from Stone and Focus, also known as number 19, video is kind of iconic for me. I feel it every time I listen to this. I am that monkey in the hot spring. There is a hotel there you can stay at in Japan where you can watch the monkeys bathe and everything. It's kind of crowded during the winter and expensive, but like, monkey in the hot spring. And for context, for those who don't know, a video on YouTube has a song, Stone and Focus by Aphex Twin, where it's a video of a monkey in the hot spring with their eyes closed, which became a very popular YouTube video. The song is strange. It doesn't invoke any feeling of bliss or fear. It gives me more of a feeling of being in limbo, waiting to see what will happen next. You can hear a ticking noise, which adds to the special nature it gives off, also coupling with the fact that the song is 10 minutes long, which makes you wonder if anything's ever going to happen, or if you'll stay trapped in this state forever. Another one of my favorite ambient songs. This particular track on the playlist set the mood back from the journey I've been through from all the songs prior and brought back to that comforting, tranquil, or peaceful vibe that I started on. Although strangely I'm picturing a scene where I was observing Earth from a space station, seeing the world through its outermost lenses. In the end, Aphex Twin is my quintessential electronic artist I enjoy listening to and good one to end playlist with. I think this track is extremely repetitive, but in a way it works. I will say it's a little long, but I understand that's the artistry of it. It forces you to slow down, which I don't exactly find myself doing a lot anymore. The deafening bass overtaking the airy high keys, and the clicking silently sitting in the background, kind of makes you feel a sad somberness. Sort of the feeling I graduated after high school. It's an introspection that makes me think, that was it? What's left after this? Where do I go from here? It's sort of a lost sound that matches that lost feeling. The track creates more strong imagery for me. I think of a night just cold enough to bite the skin, but not warm enough to be comfortable. Sitting on a bench in an empty stadium at my school, looking upon what is familiar and sort of looking forward in a hesitant way, knowing I'm never going to see this again. Also think of now in college. I've lay in bed with my girlfriend, hugging and snuggling each other, eating close and warmly under thick covers. It's an extremely warm, welcoming feeling juxtaposed by the back of my head wondering, how long will this last? How long can I keep this working? How long can I not lose this? I think this was the best track. I'm glad it was saved for last.